Hello and welcome to MBOW Builder of Worlds. This is the part 2 video for the Burrows Badgers Beamfleot Beaver Dam Temple build. Yes, it is. Last time you'll remember that I left it on a cliffhanger because I had all of this cack that we'd gone digging through the cack for, and it's kind of like I hadn't decided what I was going to do with it, so I kind of like killed the video at the end. So this video we're going to make sure this all ends up on the model. Well, not all of it because there's quite a lot there, but some choice pieces, and we're going to finish this model off. Now, before I get started, there is one thing I'd like to say. I'd like to say thanks very much to this guy, whose name I didn't catch, who I had the pleasure of chatting with in the Serpent's Lair, the VIP marquee at Bloodstock open air in the summer. This channel has now over 5,000 subscribers, which is epic, and more people who watch it, which is really, really cool. And I have been to a number of wargame shows in the last year and met people who are subscribers, and it's been brilliant talking to people who watch my videos, and we get to chat about what I do. It's kind of cool, and to a degree you kind of expect that at a wargaming show, at least one wargaming show. I kind of like went and advertised myself by wearing one of my t-shirts as well. But it's kind of cool when you're in other places and somebody comes and asks you if you are MBOW Builder of Worlds. It's happened on a couple of different Facebook groups that my daughter's a member of, and on this occasion chap came and spoke to me in the VIP at Bloodstock, which was really, really cool. Now granted, there is quite a big kind of like crossover in the Venn diagram of tabletop wargamers and heavy metal fans. The crossover section is pretty large, and I'd expect there to be quite a few wargamers at a festival like Bloodstock, but nevertheless it was still kind of cool to have somebody come up to me and talk to me about this channel and what it means to him, and getting so selfish to share with his nerdy mates. So whoever you were, I don't know your name, thank you very much. You made my weekend right at the very beginning of it. Having said that, if you kind of drop a comment down below, I'd love to know who you are, just because, you know, I like to put a name to face, which is pretty cool. Murray, who was also going to see me at Bloodstock, I met him at Bloodstock last year, just too damn hot. Bloodstock, God, it was hot, and he wasn't able to stay all throughout during the day. I believe his wife wasn't very well. So, Murray, I hope your wife is getting better. Anyway, let's think about getting on with this build. So this build then, for those of you who are watching part 2, which is a bit odd, if you're watching part 2 and this is the first one of these videos you've come across, then press stop, pause in a moment when I finish, and I go back and watch part 1, and make an awful lot more sense if you do it that way. But if you don't, if you just need a bit of a recap, if you haven't come straight to this from part 1, then you'll know that a few months ago I converted this beaver priest from the kind of like high priest, scary kind of beaver type character that Michael Lovejoy produced, and this beaver is my priest for Manannan, the god of the sea. So, as lots of other figures in this range, in this game, have kind of like spawned ideas, this character spawned an idea as well, and I wanted to build a beaver dam and have a temple for the sea god Manannan, for that, you know, that beaver to kind of belong to. So that was the plan, and this was kind of like, hang on, let's chuck the cack out. Yeah, and quite a lot of sand as well. This is where we got to last time. It's an island built of 50mm low density polystyrene, which has coral sand all over it and great big piles of logs around the outside. This ship's prow makes the pulpit for the priest, which is kind of cool because he can either stand on the pulpit and talk to his talk to the faithful who are all in boats out here, or I'm thinking now actually you could also stand on the pulpit this way around and we could have other people stood here on it. So it's kind of cool. Then I got to digging through the cack, which wasn't the first time I've gone digging through the cack. Apparently in Burrows Badgers, certainly did it in the Stoke Bart video some time ago, but that was way ages ago. I forgot about that. Thanks luck God for telling me about that one. But I did go digging through the cack and found loads of shippy bits that I now want to build into this model because this looks far too neat and tidy. And I also like the idea of this dam not only being a dam and a temple, but it being the kind of like the Beamfleot junk pile, if you like. So all bits of ship, wreck ship and all the rest of it get offered up as offerings to Manannan, and they going to get placed around it. So that's kind of like the idea with the CAC. I've got to decide if I can do anything else to the inside of the model as well. I'll think about that. It also needs some kind of top. The problem is, apart from anything else, 50mm means that my dude sticks over the top quite a lot, so I'm thinking of having a raised roof somehow, maybe a platform on it. One of the problems with this model at the minute is there isn't actually an enormous amount of playable surface on it. It's a big piece of scenery. He says, looking for a rule. Here we are, under all that cack there. It's a big piece of scenery. It measures, the actual island itself is a foot long by 7 inches wide, but there's very little playable space on it. If I have a flat surface here, and either build a temple structure on top of it, or just have a flat surface which the kind of like the faithful gather on, then that will give me a decent playing surface, and it makes it worthwhile actually putting it on the table, because at the minute it's a bit slim on the ground from that point of view. So that's what we've got to do. We've got to add water around the edges, add all the junk, make a roof for the Beaver's dam itself, put on the odd kind of like jetty on either end for the faithful to arrive on, and paint the whole thing. It's going to be quite a lot to get on with this video, so let's not spend any more time talking about it. Let's kind of, well, actually, what we're going to do first is clear up the desk, because I made a bit of a mess. Yeah. So we're gonna clear up the desk first of all, and then we're going to get on with the sticking on the CAC. Excellent. Bear with me. I won't be long. I'm totally going to use one of these as a wreck, because, well, I got, for a start, just here I could put my hands on. Two of them. This boat is one of the most ubiquitous piece of 28mm scenery I've seen and I know of. Right, I've had this one for decades, and I acquired another one recently. I think I can't remember where they buy. Is it Grendel, Scotia Grendel, or is it Hovels? I can't remember. Somebody tell me. I bet you got one in your collection anyway. So I've got, yeah, two of these, and they're no bloody good for B&B, because a B&B figure, let's find a B&B figure, even a small B&B figure has got a 30mm base, right, and because the oars are moulded on, you can't actually get one 30mm base on it. Big crap. Looks cool, so I'm going to use one of these, although I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with it. I think I'm going to take a pair of clippers to it, because what I'm going to do, I think, is sink it into, have it come up on the edge, but have only the back end of it, so the back end of it is kind of sunk in. And if I'm canny, I can use the back end somewhere else on the model as well, couldn't I? So yeah, I need to take a saw to this, or clippers or some shit. Okay, let's hit it. There we go. Cut the bottom half off. Cut the stern off. That's now going to go slopey up the side, water all around the bottom of it. That looked quite cool, I think, actually. Quite neat. Need to find a suitable place for it, but that'll be quite good. I can't help sell the kind of like the junk element of it. Look down there. This is what I kind of got in mind there. This kind of thing. Coming out of the water, water all around the base. That'll look kind of cool. Don't know if I can use any of this, because it's cut the wrong way. Might work. I'll see if I can get it on. It'd be a shame to waste it. Right, progress is slow and steady. I've made a jetty on this end next to the wreck of the rowing boat sticking out of the water. Literally out of, what's that, 8mm square section balsa wood, uprights, and then some, it's about 3mm balsa wood planking. Cut and scribed. Jim, James, watching this, sorry man, you missed me scribing this balsa. I know how relaxing you find it, you weirdo. But I might do some more up the other end. I might have to scribe some balsa planks just for you. There might be some on the top, but yeah, we're doing good. So now I've got this jetty here, which will either line up against walkways, or boats will be able to come alongside it. They look kind of cool. They're all roughly the same height, but so yeah, now look like that. It's quite neat. So that's the next thing, and now I'm going to start piling up some more cack around the sides. Still haven't thought about what I'm going to do inside here. That's still causing me a few headaches. Get to that after I stuck some more cack on, I think. One of the things I am doing, found some old string rope. I've peeled it apart to get this twine out, which is now a decent ship's rope kind of thickness, which I can coil up, maybe, and make rope with. I could go around the top of some of these posts. I have just chucked some junk rope down here, stuck that on, added to the pile. So this is quite a useful thing. Twine that you can untwine. So yeah, that's kind of neat. Right, what's next? More cack nets, I think, and some general other stuff. Yeah, okay, keep going. I have got one problem with this, apart from the hideous lighting in here, which I haven't sorted out yet. So I got this kind of big glary glare on my forehead because of the spotlights up there. Is that when I was making this, cutting out, and I've made everything too close. I didn't take into account how much space all this. Hang on. How much space all these logs are going to take up down here, and what I've done, unfortunately, is kind of like run out of space around the edge. So where I want to make this kind of like more haphazard, I'm kind of stuck because I've got no base to stick it on down here. So I'm going to hang a few things on it, some rope and some net and stuff, which will help break it up. But yeah, it's one of those things that's kind of struck me recently. It's like nuts. If I was going to do it again, I'd have a wider base. If I was going to do it again, I ain't going to do it again. But if I was going to do it again, I need a wider base around here so I can have more junk in the water. Because what I need is stuff coming out of the water, and yeah, it's not going to happen the same kind of way, which is really, really annoying. I can get a bit around this side, and some over here probably, and down here. But I want to put another kind of jetty in there. Well, I'll run out of water space there. So that might have junk down there, and then whatever the hell goes on the top here, which I still haven't decided. So here we go. Keep piling up the junk for a minute. Alright, now this is the fun bit, because I'm kind of making progress with this now. I've used more of the gloom-tied shipwreck that I've cut into various pieces. I'm now placing around. I've got bits of net, rough bits of wood, getting stuck on, starting to make this a bit more haphazard, this pole. Around the back side there's the rudder from the gloom-tied shipwreck. There's a spar and the odd bit of sail there, some more rough loggage, which is kind of cool. This here is going to be this is a log on a rope that's going to be floating in the water. It's going to be it's roped up so the beaver can pull it up and add to the top, which is doing kind of well. Really pleased. But one thing I haven't done, still worked out what the frick I'm going to do with the bit in the middle, where he lives and how it works. It needs a roof, really, somehow. I wish I hadn't done this bit now, to be quite honest. I might just kind of like log over that and not deal with that at all. That might be the way up, because beavers swim up underneath dams, as far as I know. So that might be the kind of the wet end, and this might be the living quarters over here. But yeah, it's kind of coming on. Check it out. Look. All of that, we're going to have water added to it. There's a bloody great big lobster here. That'll be kind of like sitting on the top of the water. So got to have all the water added, all water effects added yet. So from that point of view, it's looking a bit rough and ready. But and like I said, it's hard on this back bit because there's hardly any room around the base. But we're getting bits added on. I need a few bits added around the top of the wood pile, around here, but not too much on the flat, because that's where figures are going to have to stand, obviously. And like I said in the last video, or early in this one, what I am strapped for is flat playing surface, so got to be careful with that. Right, so a few more bits of junk around the edge, and then tackling the roof pile and that. Might even have to go and have a look at some proper beaver dams and see what they look like, if that'll help. Not that it really matters, because we're going for, what are we going for, kids? We're going for Whimsy. So it doesn't really matter if it's not quite like it. I had thought at one point, look, here's the bottom of a Playmobil ship. At one point I thought it'd be quite cool if I kind of made the roof out of that, just turned it upside down. Still could be, it's a bit big, so I don't think that's going to do it. Anyway, it's got bits for wheels in it, which is weird, so you can push your playing build boat across the floor of your living room, but it definitely needs something, and I just haven't worked that bit out at all. I don't know whether it needs a thatched roof or a flat log roof. I'm kind of aiming for a flat log roof, I think, because then I could have loads of people standing on it, which would be better. I quite like this is a fairly low kind of thing compared to other buildings which are quite tall. Although it's going to end up quite tall by the time I've added things like this mast with a bell on it. That bell's going to stand there like that, and then going to call people to kind of like worship, that kind of thing. Kind of cool. One of prayers when service is going to happen. Anyway, keep adding for a minute. A few more spars and things yet. The old barrel. Yeah. More junk required. Alright, this episode I'm not digging through the cack. I went digging through the cack last time. This is not cack. This is as close as I get to organised. I've got drawers of this stuff, resin bits, all sorts of things. There are, all the different kind of like scenery sets and bits and pieces that I bought, and all my spares that aren't organised are all kind of like in these drawers. I've got loads of them, check them out, look. So I've got plenty to dive into, so I'm going to be digging out some barrels and bits and pieces out here. Yeah, like I said, doesn't really count. I don't think it's digging through the cack because it's kind of organised, but got to find a few more spares somehow, haven't I? I want the old barrel, that kind of thing floating around. Look, if I had time and nothing else to do in my life, which I don't, I've got loads to do in my life, I haven't got time, I'd sit down and sort all this out. But look, there's half a barrel top that's going to just be floating in the water. That kind of thing's kind of cool. But yeah, this is my organised cack, so it's not the same as digging through the cack. So no digging through the cack in this video, but quite a lot of rooting around in drawers. Rooting around in drawers. It's nowhere near as catchy, is it? That will look crap on a t-shirt. I'm not doing that. Okay, well, I'm just going to keep searching for stuff that I can put on this model. Hey ho, look, I mean, look, rugs. Look, nice. There's a different one. Hey, thank you, Terrain Crate. Alright, so, yeah, I think I've put loads of junk on. I've got plenty on there now. Selling it, the idea of it now being more of just a junk pile as opposed to just a pile of logs. I haven't used everything yet, but I've now added floating barrels. I've got 3 or 4 of these proper ship's wheels 28mm figures, so I reckon that's going to be floating out of the water as well. Another tiny little barrel just drifting around in the water here. Logs and bits and stuff. It's kind of, at this point, looks a bit crude, but the next really important job actually is going to be to add quick drying polyfiller to make the water effects. That will blend everything in. I'll lose the bottoms of all the logs. Everything down here will then be in the water and coming out of the water, which will really kind of like sell the whole kind of concept as well, I think. So from that point of view, I mean, you can see it a little bit around here where I've got the polyfiller on this barrel there, because I just got stuck on dry. So that is the next big job. Then I've got to work out what the smeg I'm doing with this bit. I think, as I said earlier, I'm going to permanently roof over here. Flat logs, that'll work. And then I think I'm going to build something kind of squarish here. I think I'm going to go again with a flat roof. Maybe, as one of my viewers in the last video suggested, something with a bit of a crenellated roof. Might be kind of cool if there's some kind of lookout tower on the top. You know, it's a temple to Mananananan, so there could well be a kind of crow's nest type affair that the priest goes up, or somebody goes up to go and look out for fishing vessels that are returning, or keeping an eye out for pirate ships or whatever, which might be quite cool. So it might involve building a crow's nest, which could be quite neat. I've still got some of these from that terrarium kit that I used on the fighting pit, and I think I seem to remember also on the lighthouse build. So from that point of view, that might work quite well as a kind of like a thing for a crow's nest. Be quite neat. Could even stick up through there, couldn't it, really? Got to be kind of careful at this end though. I don't want to go over too much here, because this is obviously one of the main ways onto the kind of like the island. So from that point of view, this needs to be fairly easy access. So I might even stick, hell, I might even go that end with there, do something with this end completely. See how it's all a cunning plan? You can, can't you? We can just see how I've got this all completely planned out all in advance. I know exactly what I'm doing. Yeah? No? No, you're right, I'm not. I'm just making this up as I go along. I really, really am. This one more so than ever. But I kind of, actually, I'm thinking actually in some ways, if I did that, that might be quite cool. Crow's nest on there, temple on there. Oh, sorry, I don't know, I'm going to bed. Battery's about to run out on the camera too, so from that point of view, this battery's running out. I'm going to bed because it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Happy days. Nearly there though, coming on. Just got to work out this little bit in the middle. And we nearly got it. Sweet. Laters. Alright, getting up to speed then. I had a day off. I had a really nice day at an event called Invasion Colchester. Dressed up as Krampus. Check this out. And now I'm making models. Getting back to this, watching the Taylor Hawkins tribute. So I'm kind of like a few tears, and I'm kind of like not kind of stopping and starting, and I keep making things. So I apologise if bits can't happen. This is my crow's nest. I made it deliberately so it comes apart so I could stack it away. Really sorry to Jim, who likes to watch me scribe balsa wood, because I always scribed it. It's just a wooden platform with angled supports, super glued on. This didn't wait for the other stuff there, and this is right. I think I'm going to stick it permanently. Well, the base of it anyway, down there, and then I'm going to build wooden platform around it. Those who don't remember, this is part of a terrarium thing that I had. Floating platform for terrapins, turtles or whatever. Most of it got used on the fighting pit, which is actually over there. Is that there? Look. Oh. But I've got this one, so I've cut the bottom off. I'm going to stick that in permanently. I'm going to put wooden platform around it somehow. And then this bit is I've done so I can remove it, and I'm also going to stick. I've decided again. I love how these kind of like narratives build up and develop as you go. Here, this is the crow's nest. This is going to go on here, thus, and then this bit, which is the mast from the Gloomtide shipwreck, is going to go on it here, stuck on one corner, and then that way there the priest can get up and ring his bell when the service is going to take place. I'm not entirely sure how he'd get up there, apart from the fact it's a beaver, and you know, we'll see if we can climb, and I might have some ropes or something dangling down, but you know, what the hell, makes good story. So from that point of view, that's kind of like where we're going. So I need to stick these various bits in now. Alright, so I've put kind of platform and loggage around the mast step for the crow's nest now, so this is all going to be solid. I'm not going to touch it too much because it's still kind of like the glue's all going off, but that's more of the logs and a bit of random kind of timber chucked on top, piled up. For the this is going to have loads of plant on it as well. I think lots of little scrub and bush and moss stuck in between the logs to try and keep it mostly kind of weatherproof and stuff. So this end is solid, ain't coming off. But if I make the roof removable, which it will be, there's access into that bit in there, which is fine. I like the idea that, because beavers swim underneath the dam to get into it. So I kind of like the idea that that would be down that corner, might be where he comes in and out. And now I'm going to build a platform to go on this bit. So keep this relatively simple, I think. I'm going to sink some balsa piles in a number of places. So kind of one in here and one on the other side, and then probably another one up at this end here. So I'm going to have a platform. I'm going to build a platform, build up the sides with more of the thin logs. Leave a few spaces for kind of like windy holes. And then I'm going to put a removable platform on the top. So I'm hoping this ain't going to be too complicated. We're putting the piles in and making the piles, cutting the piles. This one I want to sink into the styrene here. We're supposed to put in here. I want to put it back here so I can keep the whole thing a relatively rectangular platform. And then I'm going to put cross braces across the two. It needs to stick up a little over the needs to stick up a little over the edge. That's 50mm, but this dude alone, and I think the way I've modelled him with the hook on things, I think he's one of the tallest models in the range, but he stands at nearly 80mm tall. So the underside is going to have to be 2 or 3 centimetres up, I think. So probably yeah, it's going to have to stick out. Oops, it's going to have to stick out 3mm, I think, 3 centimetres, roughly, from the styrene. So it'll be fairly high. We can't sit up here, kind of thing. It's going to be a really interesting, whimsical model. This, architecturally speaking. Yeah, architecturally speaking, I don't know the kind of like the true values of this build, but then again, I know nothing at all about Beaver Dam, so from that point of view, it wouldn't surprise me. It is going to have that degree of whimsy that I'm looking for. So it's a fantasy model on a fantasy table, so from that point of view, it's fine. It's going to go quite well with other bits and pieces, and I'm happy for it to look different. I don't think at this stage I'm thinking of putting anything on top of the platform. I've got the ship's pulpit over here. Not that that's in shot. Where's the bloody model? I don't think I'm actually going to put anything on top of the platform, temple-wise. I've got the ship's pulpit. I'm going to have the crow's nest. I might sink the odd extra broken mast that's been recovered, I suppose. I could do that. Although this one's hollow, I don't like the back of that. I might sink another mast in somewhere. But on the whole, I want it to be fairly plain, I think. And I'll make the platform, stick the crow's nest on, which now has got the mast. Although it's not getting stuck on, of course, that's only going to be removable, but that's gone there. Yeah, putting that on there. I'll put the raised platform on, and then I'm going to see what it looks like, because that might be enough without having to build any kind of shelter. I don't need a shelter on top of the temple. It's a sea god's temple. It should be open to the elements, and the priest stands there in all weathers preaching and praying and that kind of thing. So right, so there are now 2 jobs to go. I've left this plenty of time for all the junk to glue, and it's come out real good. I'm actually really pleased with this, apart from my little lobster. He's going to get stuck on later. The junk pile around the bottom of the mast is cool. I've deliberately left this part of the mast off so I can make that easier to store, which is a great idea. I've got lots of junk around the base of the island, so this is very much kind of like the shippy junk pile out in Beamfleot. So there are 2 jobs to do. I've got to make the top part here to go onto the top part of the temple. The temple mostly is here. This is going to be a preaching area, and I'm going to make that a fairly simple cap lid. I was getting very ahead of myself and terribly complicated in my mind as to how I was going to do it. I don't need to do that at all. I'll get to that shortly. The other thing I've got to do, the next job I'm going to do, is I'm going to add quick dry and poly filler. Could put all the water on. If I put all the water on, that will well, it doesn't need everything to hold in place because there's plenty of glue. If I put all the water on, what will happen is that will then, I can let that go off and dry while I make the lid section here, and then that's all the construction done. So I need quick drying polyfiller, which comes in tubes and various sizes and tubs and what have you. I tend to use these tubes because I get through them. Enough of this I'll use on a model or two, and I don't waste too much. So I'm going to cut the knob off. Yeah, said knob. And I'm going to add a polyfiller right around the base to give everything a mud or water covering. And I'll probably use water on a brush to kind of like help get the polyfiller where I want it, and also to smooth it down too. That is the first job. Alright, so you can see here down here, this is the polyfiller gone on. Big kind of worm of polyfiller. And take my wet brush and working it into around the base of the logs. So I'll go water or mud up against the logs here. Going to work it around this barrel. So everything gets a smooth, watery finish. Paints up really nice, as you've seen on other models, and obviously this will get painted in this project too. You'll see that. It's a bit fiddly, and you end up dragging it around, so you end up kind of placing it in some cases. Spread it out from where you want it, where you've got it, to where you want it. Don't put too much on to start off with. You can always add little bits more. This way, and get right up, and everything gets blended in. Try not to obscure the details on some of your fine stuff like these little barrels. But you could use, well, a bit like painting really, a number of different grades of brushes to help you apply this to get into the really thin bit. There's quite a lot of water to put onto this. I'm not going to make you sit and watch it all go on, that will be a little bit tiresome. I'll come back to you in a minute when I want to show you some specific parts. Right, okay, so I'm getting this fiddly bit now, which is down here under the prow of the ship, the priest's pulpit if you like. But I'm making sure I'm working filler right in under here, and I'll work it in. I'll have to get the brush inside as well, so we can get it in between all the ribs. Which will look cool because there's going to be kind of like the sand in the bottom there, but then there's also water, so it'll either be water coming in there or mud, one way or another. It's going to look really neat, and it really marries up the pulpit to the board as well. So that's the cool thing about using this filler for water, is that it blends everything together. It looks like everything's supposed to be. Helps us make the model look like it's all one thing and not this kind of like massive collection of cack that we dug out from the respective cack boxes, you know. It's half the fun. It's the bit where we're kind of fooling the eye, finishing it off. So already this is a, as it says on the pack, quick drying polyfiller, so it's already drying off over this side. You can reactivate it a little with water, which is kind of cool. That helps you wash off various things. Just got this last bit to do under here. Then I'm going to put it to one side to dry, and while I make the top and the lid of the temple. Let's have another squirt of filler down here. In that gap, a big white worm there. A little bit more around the base here. Don't worry about covering up some of the stuff you're stuck on. Gives it form and shape even if it's kind of covered in underwater. But you'll be able to uncover it as you use your brush and apply. It will just help blend everything together. Get that great look we're going for. Right, that's filler on everywhere. I could smooth out in places, wet brush, smooth it on, let it dry off. I will smooth it on. What I'll probably do when it has completely dried is actually add a Mod Podge cover coating to the whole thing to seal it before I paint it. But now that's all on, I'm pleased with that. What I'm going to do now is make the cover the lid for the temple itself, for the sleeping quarters, the living quarters of the Beaver priest on his dam. I have a tendency to overthink things when I'm making these models, and sometimes they get really complicated. They don't need to be. And what I've kind of come up with from a solution point of view, I was going to cut individual piles, sink them into the polystyrene, cut beams into them, cover it up, have removable little bits of roof, and I decided that actually frankly that was just way too complicated. Sometimes you need to keep a model simple, because bottom line, it's for using in a game, and every single one of my models comes apart of Burrows Badgers, and a lot of the time they don't come apart at all, and people just go around the outside and all the rest of it. And unless I specifically have scenarios set up where characters have to go into different buildings or different setups, sometimes you don't uncover the fact that the roofs come off and the doors open, all that kind of shiz anyway. So you don't have to get too complicated. Yes, of course I want a model to look really cool. Of course I want to put in as much detail as I possibly can, because I've had so much fun doing that with this set of models, but I've also got to be practical, and I've got other things I want to make. So what I've decided to do is to keep this one simple. Straightforward. I'm going to use this 8mm balsa square section dowel. I'm going to cut 30mm. I think I mentioned someone there already, I think. Let's have a look. Yeah, 30 to 40mm lengths. 4 or 6 of them, which I'm then going to place, have arranged in a rectangle, so they can 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6. I might add a 7th one here. I'm going to lay beams across the top of them or in between them, and then I'm going to use my logs to build up the sides. In some cases I'll leave bits open because he wants to have windows to look out, and we'll have a log kind of platform over the top. I might put planking on it rather than logs, but actually logs will be fine. What I want to achieve is a flat surface here that figures, characters, people from Beamfleot could come and gather at the temple and listen to the preacher as he preaches and prays. And I want a flat surface here so that I've actually got space for characters to get around. Alright, so I've cut my piles and then I recut them because I'd said they were too tall, and now actually none of them are the same length. God damn it, some of them still need a little bit of trimming, I think. But I'm not measuring any of these things now, I'm doing it all by eye. So I'm literally placing on my beam, and that's how far I want it. And I'm just going to come across to about here, so I'm literally just going to draw a line on there. Yeah, and I'm going to cut that. This is about 5mm square section balsa. And what I'm going to experiment with, if I can, is I'm going to cut grooves. If I could do it, I'd like to have a 5mm groove cut in there. But this might be too thick. This is thinner. This would probably work, but I haven't got as much of this, so it's only about 3 mils thick. Let's see what I can come up with, but it will be pretty cool. Right, so I offered up beam. Here we are, to the end of the pile, and I've cut into it. There we are. I've cut into it on both sides. I've now had to change to a scalpel, different blade, to dig out, cut out in the end of my pile. Let's see what I can do. So I'm going to do this very carefully. Of course you can't see because my knife's in there. Goddamn way. It'd be great if I could pull this off, purely because it would look more right. Well, it'll also make it easy to stick together. So chances are that the balsa's going to split, because that's what balsa does. We're winning. Okay. God, my actual medieval reenactment friends who are into medieval buildings will be really impressed with me right now. Doing this properly, rather than just doing what I normally do, which is apply the yoo-hoo. Yes, indeed. There we go, look at that. Cut out. Oh, focus, focus, focus. We've cut out a bit there. Hopefully, that you're sitting. Nah, crap, not quite yet. It's not wide enough. Okay. But we have ways of making this work. Completely unnecessary from a model point of view, although it will look kind of cool when it's done, so from that point of view, well worth it, I think. Tiny little bit carved away in there. Could probably do with a new knife in the new blade in the scalpel, but that now fits in there. Whoop. There we go. That's kind of cool. Could do a bit deeper, but not too bad. That's actually, you can see in there. That will actually make it stick easier, which is great. Now I've just got to do the other side, and I'll end up with little gold posts. Let's see if I can pull that off all the way around. Well, it's only a little bit of blood. Fecking cut myself doing that one. Scalpel straight into the finger, chopping out one of these babies. Look at that. Blood for the blood god. Little squirty bits of blood for the swamp of corn. Stings though. Bleeding for you people yet again on MBOW Builder of Worlds. Saying that, I'm not going to get a lot of credit for that. That's what we call in England a piss poor amount of blood. Ow. Be careful with your knives, kids. It's been a little while since I've done a MBOW Builder of Worlds public safety court talk. However, normally I say, make sure you got really sharp scalpels, you don't push it as hard. Which is true, and this is a brand new scalpel blade, and I still managed to stick the actual end of it into the end of my finger. So from that point of view, not a cut, just a kind of like a really sharp pinprick, but duh, it happens. Kind of relaxing stuff, Jim. This is for you, man. Look, scribey the balsa with a biro. This is worn wood going on the outside of the holding the roof sections together. So this is going to look more like some kind of World War II bunker, I think, than a temple in some ways. But Just for you, man. Look, scribey into the wood with the bolt with the burrow. Nice bit of weathering on this wood here. So much so I'm even going to take a little bit off the edge. Look, and then that's going to get stuck across the base of this pile. Glue there. That's going to go across there like that. That's going to be one end. This, I've already done this one. Oh, scribey. It's the other end. And then I've got to work out how long it's going to be. This little fella going in the middle. Which is fine. And then, yeah, on the ends, I should be able to then put lengthwise along, start covering the whole thing in logs. Happy days. So here now is the frame for the roof. It's gonna make it look a bit like a machine gun post, I've got to admit. You know, for bigger figures, it's gonna have little window areas, but I'm gonna stop tonight now because I've got to let this guy go off and be completely dry. This will then lift up and go on over the top of the hole. I'm going to cover it with logs. It'll have logs around. There'll be window holes on either side of it. But the idea is this whole thing will just lift up and plop down on top of that model. It'll sit there nice and snug, and there'll be a nice big platform on top to place figures on. So it's coming on real nice. I'm really pleased with this. Right, the filler is all dry. Okay, the filler's all dry, so the next thing I'm going to do before I carry on with my roof is going to be to get some Mod Podge, matte stuff. I'm just going to take a brush and I'm going to brush Mod Podge over all of the filler to seal it so it'll take paint better. I'm doing this now because it can be drying while I'm making the roof. Mod Podge, apply to filler, go. So literally just painting it straight on. I'm not diluting it, I'm not doing anything to it, I'm just painting it straight on. It will add another layer of adhesion, will seal everything up. Alright, so we're making progress. Yeah, I'll pop the cameras on the wrong side. Here we go. I'm putting planking on first of all with rectangular, low rectangular windows, only on a couple of sides to light up everything inside. And then there's going to be log around the bottom, built up around the sides a little bit as well. I can't help thinking it's going to have a bit of a kind of like machine gun nest kind of look to it. You know, kind of in there. Here's the Beaver with his MG42, taka. But having said that, you know, I want to keep it low and flat, and this is going to have a great flat surface on it. I've cut loads and loads of these logs to the right height, length even, which I'm going to lay all them on, and then when they're stuck on, I'll get little bits of flock, which are going to be moss in between the gaps and stuff, so which will get added after it's painted. But so yeah, we're nearly there. Got to do this wall here, this wall over here, and then the main construction will be done, and then all we're left to do is paint the damn thing, which is going to take a while. Right, there is the finished roofed platform. So this is the top. It's very simple, it's just logs, it's a wooden structure. I'm hoping all the glue's gone off enough now I can handle it. Here it is. It does look a bit like a machine gun nest, I've got to confess, but then he doesn't need, the Beaver who lives there doesn't need grand windows, he needs windows to let light in. Doesn't need huge windows because he lives in a stormy, horrible, unpleasant place. And we have got this nice flat surface achieved that I could put figures on. So yeah, I don't know what a Beaver's lodge looks like, but it's kind of like, I think, looking pretty whimsical. Yay, go me with the Whimsy. It's logs around the base, it's got some planking in there, so it'll make it more interesting to paint. It's not all the same thing. The water is now done. Yeah, I'm now at the point where I was going to detail the inside, put more details inside, but I don't think it needs it really. It could have done with a fireplace, all sorts of things. But for the moment, what I want to do is get this bad boy painted on the table. So what this needs to be is sprayed up. There's some exposed polystyrene here, which is a pain because I haven't got sand on that, so that needs sealing before I paint that. But that's absolutely fine. So here we are, this is where it goes. Oh, we have got a big, oh, I thought I'd finished, but actually there's quite a large gap there. I might have to fill that in with a couple of individual planks. Let's do that now. Next comes the really cool part. The really cool part, spraying this bad boy black, because then it will all look like one model. Let's go down to the garage. Okay, model all undercoated, and also because there's so much wood on it and mud and everything else, I also gave it a going over with Austin Rover Russet Brown as well. It's a bit glossy, but by the time I wheel my dry brushing brushes, that will take all that off there and it will save me a hell of a lot of time. So, time to paint. Let's find the Mournfang Brown and the XV88 and all the other bits and pieces, and let's get painting this bad boy so we can get it on the table. I've got to say, now it's all kind of like all one colour. Yep, just done it again. It looks pretty cool. I think I might be alright with this model after all. Looking alright. Get all the brown, all the wood painted first, and all the earth and the mud and everything else, and then yeah, I can worry about the details. Take my mask off. Bing! Paint that all by itself, can't I? Right. I'll stop it every now and then when I'm in the process. I'm going to paint the mud first, I think. And then we're going to paint the wood. The wood will be darker. Alright, part of the challenge of painting this model is it's going to be brown on brown. A lot of brown, a lot of wood. I'm going to make the mud, the earth, a different kind of set of browns to the tree trunks. The tree trunks I'm also going to make sure we get quite a lot of slime, kind of green, blue kind of stuff around the base where the water's come up and they're all going rotten and horrible. So far, painted the mud elements, the island elements. There's going to be clumps of grass and moss and all that. Now that was done with Mournfang Brown and XV88, and then what's that? Zandri Desert, Zamizi Desert. Now the loggage is getting drier bark dry brush paint over. First of all, over everything, and then I'll highlight up from that. That will probably be by adding Mournfang Brown into it and some other browns as well, but I want to try and make the logs definite different kind of colour to the mud. We'll see if I'm successful in a little while. Who knows? Don't hold your breath, people. This painting is going to take a little bit. However, we are making good progress. We are making good progress. Won't be long before this is done. And it'll be on the Beamfleot table with everything else. Then we'll see where we are. The situation we're now in is that I've got some paint on here. It's starting to look a bit like wood. It's amazing. It's really funny when you start off with a wooden thing and then you paint it, spray it, and then you have to paint it look like wood again. This roof has got loads of gaps in it and will not keep out the weather. And I kind of imagine that what would happen is that it would get a whole covering of moss, certainly in all the gaps. So my next job now is I'm going to use fine turf from Woodland Scenics, And I'm going to put loads and loads of moss in all these gaps if I can. Certainly enough to show that it's kind of like that's the roof. And tread it in. So I think I'm going to use Mod Podge, brush it into all the gaps, and then use this stuff. What's that? Olive green underbrush from Woodland Scenics, from John Dutfield Model Railways. And we can see how we do that. So I'm going to stick that in this box lid over here. For the moment, I'm going to get the actual thing out of the way. I would have bloody put it in my new workshop. And I'm going to find Mod Podge. We're going to get a brush and we're going to brush this whole stack of glue in. Let's see how we do. So, oh cock, that didn't work. Shut up. Well, cock, that didn't work. The underbrush is too thick. I'm going to have to go with a kind of like a smaller, let's just go with a kind of like a green flock. See what we can find. This is also a Woodland Scenics green flock. We're going to use this instead. Because you like all that brushing going on, all that fast forward kind of stuff. Right, let's see if this makes a difference. What I'm trying to achieve is grass in between the logs and not all over it, or moss in between the logs, not all over the top of the model. So I want it to kind of go. So you can't even see what I'm bloody doing, can you? For God's sake, bloody amateurs. So I'm going to run my finger up and down like that, and kind of like see if I can get the. That's better. That's what I was trying to do. This stuff was fecking rubbish, just the wrong material. The principle was fine, by the looks of things, just the wrong material to use. Because look, when I do that, hopefully, it takes it away, blows it off. And now I've got wood bits and grass bits and moss in between all the wood bits. And in some places I've still got big holes which I can fill with Bostik, Yoo-hoo glue and chunky stuff. But that's better. And I could do the same if I want around the edge. Alright, okay, that's cool. Yeah. Right, that's not a complete disaster now then. Okay, so I've flocked parts of the mud on the island. This is coming alright. I mean, it's got different grades now of moss on here. You can still see the logs all through, which I kind of like give that impression of it's a living roof and keeps everything nice and dry. I'm now onto the bit that I wasn't looking forward to really, which is painting all the details, the nets and the bits of boat and the various bits of plank and that kind of thing. So just going to crack on with this really, because we're nearly there. I'm nearly finished, and then we're going to paint the water. But yeah, okay, we'll give it a go, see what we can come up with. Got anchors to paint and lumps of wood and bits of fishing net and yeah, metal bits and guff. Right, you are. Oh, and got to do something with this as well. Well, if nothing else, paint the rope and the little bell, and then it goes on there, doesn't it? Yay! Alright, so I got base colours on bits of the wreckage. And now I'm going to go for a whole load of slopping a load of what we got, Nolan oil and Boltan green and probably a Grax Earthshade and other bits and pieces to kind of stain everything before I do a kind of final dry brush kind of thing on it. Got to mark a high water mark, and I've still got to do the water. I'm thinking the high water mark on this dam is going to be right up here somewhere. So everything below that roughly is going to get treated with kind of wash and go. Flood waters and the rest. Still got a bit to go, still got some details and bits and pieces to go, but we are definitely winning now, which is great. Right, that's water painted on. high water staining is on. I've got a bunch of details to pick out and barnacles to paint and various other bits and pieces. We made quite a lot of progress. I'm going to have to stop painting for the minute though to let all this stuff go off, otherwise I'm just going to get covered in blue paint and green paint and what have you. The water then will need a gloss Mod Podge coat as well. That will help it seal it first of all, and also make it look glossy and watery. So that's kind of, but we are making very good progress. What's next? What's next is to highlight some bits and pick out some final parts. It's going to be one of those paint jobs I think I'm going to get to the point where I'm happy with it from a tabletop standard point of view, and then maybe go back to it and add little paints and details and things. I need to put rust on the anchor over here, and I need to yeah, there are various things. Inside it's just still completely bare. The roof of the temple is there, and I'm not going to put anything in there unless I need it. I don't think so. From that point of view, we come up mostly done there. Nearly done and finished. Hurrah! It's the following day and the water effects have now dried. As you can see, there's a bit of glossy there because that's kind of, I can't remember what that is, Nurgle's rot. I'm now going to coat all the water in Mod Podge gloss, because that will then make it look wet and it will blend and go with all the other bits of terrain I've done in the same kind of way. And then all I've really got to do is pick out some highlights and details on some of the kind of like wreckage around about the place, and this model is pretty much finished. Let's get it done. Alright, that's the Mod Podge on. It was always quite disconcerting at this stage because it's kind of like white everywhere, but of course it all dries completely clear and gloss, and I'll have a nice water effect. So I'm going to leave this to dry now, go do something else for an hour or two, and then come back to it and add finished details, add rust to the anchor and various other bits and pieces, some highlights and stuff, and then we're just about done. Epic. Right, this is about as done as it's going to be, I think. Gone round, we've added highlights and lowlights, we've added barnacles and a high tide mark, rust on the anchor chains, mank on the sails, highlights and lowlights on the ship as well. I added more moss and flock around the base of the mast, because that was looking, didn't match up with the rest of the model really. So now all I have to do really is get it on the table, get the Beaver out and see if he approves, and see if we can bring the faithful to worship. So that is the finish of the Beaver's Dam and Temple to Manannan in Beamfleot village on the marsh, metropolis on the marsh. It's getting bigger and bigger, this set of scenery. I really enjoyed making this model. It's been one of those really make up as I go along. I had various ideas in my mind when I started, some of which have made it onto the finished thing, and other bits totally haven't. I was going to have, originally I thought having a big structure, or pillars and a roof and that kind of thing, and I don't know whether that goes really. I quite like this low level side of things. I think it does look a bit Beaver Dammy. I hope it doesn't look too World War II machine gun postal and bunkery, or more to the point with all these logs, kind of some kind of French and Indian War blockhouse. You know, by the time it's on a water basin, it's out with all the other bits of scenery. I hope the kind of whole concept kind of works. It's been a lot of fun doing it. I don't know how temple-y it looks. I haven't really thought about what the kind of iconography for the god would be. I think it could possibly do with some more fish hanging around, or anchors, or bits of ship. Although all the bits of ship and the bits of the wreckage and stuff, I'd like to think are offerings to the god. They've been bought, salvaged and put on this island to help build the dam up and protect it, and are kind of like different bits of different ship. I deliberately painted different parts of the Gloomtide shipwreck model bits that I've used in different colours to kind of like hope sell it that they are all from different vessels rather than all from the one that the pulpit is made from. So that is it's done. I need to get it on the table. I've now got, this year I've made a huge amount of scenery for Beamfleot one way or the other. If you track back and look at all the videos in the playlist and add that to stuff I'd already made, this is going to be quite a large setup if I put it all out. I've got over here two, here we go, TT Combat 4x4 green water kind of marsh mats that I'm going to probably use, as that I do use for the base for this. I haven't put out the whole thing at all yet, so I'm hoping to do that in the next little while. And I'm pretty confident that this whole Beamfleot table will be at Salute 2023 next April, which I'm kind of quite excited about. So we're going to have a game there, probably bring the guys from my gaming group to come and help me run some Burrows and Badgers games out in the village on the marsh. So if you like this model, let me know what you think in the comments down below. If it didn't turn out quite the way you thought it could have done, let me know in the comments down below. If you think I should have put some kind of structure on the top, let me know in the comments down below. I might actually clear off and go and have a look at a number of different kind of MDF manufacturers and see if they make something suitable that I could kind of produce and stick on the top and make it look a bit more temple-y. Although, you know, it's out in the marsh, it's basic, it's simple. With these people, creatures, beasts have got other things to do, which is mainly sail ships and fish and trade and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see how we go. Anyway, whichever way you think of it, if you liked it, let me know what you think. It's always brilliant to see what people think of my B&B builds and other bits and pieces. If this is the first of my builds you've seen, the first time you come across Magrathea Builder Worlds or these two videos, then make sure you do hit subscribe and give us a like and all that kind of stuff as well. And of course, if you want to continue to support us beyond, support me and this channel beyond just helping the algorithm, you can of course sign up at patreon.com/Magrathea Builder Worlds. The latest competition has just finished there. I'm going to make the announcement who has won that competition in the very next little while, and I'll be making a model for somebody very, very soon, free of charge, just because you're my patron. I'm not sure where we're going next. I've got a couple of B&B builds I want to make. I've also got to get on with some Necromunda stuff. Either Necromunda out in the ash waste like everybody else is doing these days, or I might hit it and go back to the sump. But you never know, I might kind of like start on another project or two as well. So, thank you very much for watching Magrathea Builder Worlds. I really appreciate all your support and your comments and everything else. I hope to see you again next time. Now, for the saucy bit, let's have a closer look at this model.